Hey, this is Jeff Pilson of Foreigner, Dokken, M Machine, Dio, you name it. I was probably in it. Anyway, you're listening to a great show, Sonic Perspectives. Keep listening.
Welcome to another interview of Sonic Perspectives. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with one of the most prolific musicians in the business, Mr. Jeff Pilson. Jeff, thank you for joining me.
Wow, I'm one of the most prolific musicians in the business. I love that.
That you
Great.
are. You
Well,
are.
well, thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah. Well, similar to previous years, you have a lot of things going on. The new End Machine, Foreigner writing new stuff. Obviously, you managed to give a positive spin to this whole COVID thing, right?
Well, I mean, I've managed to function through it. I don't know how much of a positive spin that is, but yeah, I mean, you had to figure out a way to deal with it, and the truth is, I was very lucky because I get to be home and I got this beautiful studio, and I got my family, so kind
Yeah.
of a win for me. But I know for a lot of people, it's been tough. So, and recording has been different because of the pandemic. So,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I consider myself one of the lucky ones, actually.
Yeah, and I believe this is the home stretch of the interviews that you're doing to promote the End Machine album. For the fans who haven't listened yet, how would you describe it?
Just very melodic hard rock, not in a similar vein to Dokken music, really.
Hmm.
Melodic hard rock, a lot of melody, but choruses and big heavy grooves. With just some fantastic singing by Robert Mason, amazing guitar playing from George Lynch, great
Yeah,
drumming from, and some competent bass playing from me.
yeah, that's an understatement, I must say. But yeah, yeah, I think George has been quoted in saying that the second one is a little bit more direct than the first. Do you agree with that statement
Yeah.
somehow? Or
Oh yeah, sure.
yeah.
Yeah, we wanted it a little more meat and potatoes.
Hmm.
We recognized that we may have gotten a little self-indulgent on the last record, which was fun, and I don't regret it. But because of that, we kind of got it out of our system, and we're ready to do, like I say, a more meat and potatoes based record, but also really spend time making the songs great. That was the real focus this time around, was to write great songs. And I feel we did that, and I feel that we accomplished our goal, which is a great feeling.
Very much so. I must say the ultimate test for me for an album is when I go for a run and I enjoy it. I did 2 runs this weekend with the new End Machine. Perfect album for a run. Perfect.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
there you go. Those kind of things are the test. It's like for
Yeah.
me, getting in the car and putting it on in the car, like,
Blasting it. Yeah.
yeah, how's it work? So
Yeah.
great. Well, good to know we passed the running test.
Yeah. And this time there's a change in the lineup because Mick Brown retired, but you're keeping it in the family with his brother Steve now taking over the sticks, right? How is that transition? Maybe probably a seamless one, right? Because it's
It was
in the
very
family. Yeah.
seamless. Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, the strange thing is, I knew Steve was going to be great. I didn't realize it was going to feel that much like playing with Mick, and it really does. You close your eyes, and it's Mick Brown back there. It's pretty amazing. Um, Plus, his singing is great. And because Mick is Mick's singing was very important with Dokken always.
Yeah.
So. Interesting. I mean, just interesting to see how many of mixed qualities Steve has, and yet he's really young, and he was really enthusiastic, and his energy. Well, he's not that young, but I mean, young compared to us.
Younger. Yeah.
It's all relative.
Yeah.
But his enthusiasm was just fabulous. It was just great energy to have. So yeah, it was a very seamless transition, but one I couldn't feel better about. I mean, it feels so right having him there, and
Mm.
and frankly, when Mick announced his retirement, it was like, wow, how are we going to replace that? Because Mick is great. Mick
Yeah.
is an unsung hero. People don't realize how great Mick is. So yeah, we were a little worried, and then Steve just came in and did a brilliant job, and it, like I say, it just feels right. It feels like the right unit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And for a record that you guys did remotely, what surprised me is how organic it sounds.
Yeah. Well,
In an era where everything's quantized, pitch
yeah,
corrected,
yeah.
auto tune, right?
Well, well, the only tracks that were remote were George's, but all of George's tracks are remotely.
Mm.
The fortunate thing is there is a program now that I have where I can run George's studio for mine.
Oh, okay.
And then we would talk on Skype to communicate,
Mm.
and I'd kind of essentially be recording him, which was great. It was a fabulous thing. And so, but Steve and Robert both did their tracks here. So that might be part of the organic thing, but I think really, honestly, what it is it's that we know each other now. Obviously, George and I know each other, back of our hands.
Yeah.
So we were able to convey that what we have in a better way than usual. And I think in some ways having to work remotely forced us to keep it a little more simple. And I think that
Yeah.
turned out to be a good thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And after the success of the first album, did you feel like any pressure to replicate the formula or you know, to repeat or to please the fans in a certain way? Or did you just do your own thing and, hope
Well,
for the best?
um, no, I mean, well, I think we made our own evaluation of what we felt we could improve upon, and
Hmm.
number one, we felt like we could come up with better songs overall as a package. Just I mean, I'm very proud of the material on the first record, but the songs weren't as much a priority as the whole thing was. We
Okay.
sort of wanted to have an overall vibe, and I think we did that with the first record, and I think we established a sound that was, in the Dokken vein, but kind of our own thing. Um, but like I say, in critiquing ourselves, we
Mm,
felt the songs could be stronger overall, a little more direct, as you put it.
yeah,
And so that was the focus. So I would say the pressure we felt was more internal than anything.
I see. Okay. And one thing that always catches my attention, not just on the end machine, but everything you do and George does, is the attention to the tone.
Mm,
Because both of you guys managed to translate the tone from the 80s to a new era without losing the grit and the organic sounding. How
yeah.
do you make that happen? I
Well,
mean,
that is the challenge, right?
yeah.
What you described. Um, well, for one thing, both George and I are total gearheads. I mean, we love gear. I mean,
Mm.
if you listen to a conversations between George and I, at least a third of it is talking about equipment. We love to talk about gear to the
Right.
point where we nauseate the people around us. But
Uh,
but because we're into that, we know a lot of the tricks, and we know, George has got some great sounding amps. I have some great sounding amps. We know how to make it all work. But like I say, it's very important to us. I mean, a guitar sound and a bass sound and a drum sound are really, really important. And we want to make it so that we get off on it, so that
yeah.
we're excited by it. And I think by doing so, more often than not, you take the listener with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for you guys, it's such a privilege to have that creative freedom to do
Yeah,
what pleases you as opposed to thinking of what the fans might think or what they
yeah,
might like or not. So,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, we are cognizant of the fans in that. Uh, that's kind of where the critique of too much self-indulgence from the first record came along.
Right.
We knew we were kind of going down, I don't want to say rabbit holes, but we knew we were getting carried away on some things, but
Hmm.
we loved it. And we just said, fuck it, let's do it. But this time, I think we did want to steer clear of that. And that is for the fans, really. I mean, I like that too. I like it when it's streamlined and to the point. Um, but I think it's fan consciousness that kind of pointed us in that direction.
I see. Right. And two singles so far, Blood and Money and Crack the Sky. Two great videos as well with storylines, much like in the 80s, right? So where did that come from?
That's all Enzo. Enzo is well. First of all, within the band, Robert is kind of we've kind of assigned him as video guy
Okay.
because he's good with it. He just has a
Mhm.
head for the videos, and um, because he's the primary lyricist,
Mm,
I feel it's important that he have strong input as to what the videos are.
yeah.
And so it was Robert conferring with Enzo, who is the director. Enzo's a great guy. We love Enzo. I first worked with him on the last Black Swan record. And he's my favorite guy to do videos with. He listens to you, but at the same time, he's got a lot of ideas and he can make things happen. And we had the COVID stuff that we had to deal with making a video, which does not make it easy. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass, in fact. But it worked out well, and I credit Enzo for a lot of that.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong. You mentioned Robert. I think he strikes me as the kind of guy that you throw anything at him and he comes up with something cool or some melody to go up with it. Is that the case? Or, I mean, he strikes me as an easy guy to work with.
Well, he's a great guy to work with. I mean, he comes up with great stuff. I mean, I don't think of it as easy, hard. I think of it as productive or not, is more how I think of it. And it's very productive to work with him. Plus he takes direction and criticism very well, which, not everybody does. But I think that's, and I think we all do, which is why it makes us get better and better as a unit, because you have to be able to tell the other guy when it sucks too.
Yeah.
I tend to be, as producer, that's kind of my job, and I'm cool about it. But it helps when you have George and Robert there, who are also real critical and not afraid to speak their mind. So but yes, what happens is on this record the writing of the lyrics and melodies started as Zoom sessions with George, Robert, and I. And we were really working on the choruses. We were trying to really shape the choruses into being real strong. And then more often than not, Robert would kind of, we'd sort of, outline the song, and then he'd take it away and really write a lot of the great lyrics. So that's why he's the primary lyricist. But it was cool because we all worked collaboratively to get the initial spark, so that we knew we were all on the same page, and we figured if all three of us feel strongly about it, it's got to be great, and it's got to be a notch up from where we were last record. So, and I like that worked.
Yeah. Well, I like how Robert changes the way he sings. For example, on "We Walk Alone," which is a song that the fans haven't heard yet, but it's completely different vibe than the rest of the albums, or at least the singles, right? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. He's got a voice that can do anything, and so there's never a worry about Robert's voice. The only, like I say, it's just that as a team, we want to be a great songwriting team, and I feel like we took a huge evolution forward on this record, and that makes me very proud.
Yeah.
But, it's one thing to have great musicians. But when you have to combine them in a way that makes a product where the whole is greater than the sum of the individual parts. And I feel like we're in a zone now where that's happening, and I love that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And in parallel with that, there's talk about a Dokken reunion. I guess, as always, it depends on Don and George getting along, but what's the latest about that?
Actually, it's not about that as much anymore. It's about schedules.
Okay.
Well, a bunch of stuff came out on the internet that I saw last week. And I talked to George frequently. I was like, what did you say? And he goes, I did not say that we had a confirmed reunion, So somebody put those words in his mouth in an interview. But what he did say, which is the truth, is that we have talked. We've all talked about it. I think I can speak for all of us that we'd love to someday, if it's possible, make that one last great Dokken record. I think we'd love to do that. But we're a long ways from being able to confirm it. Number one, or even talk about it seriously. Number one, Don has his Dokken right now, and he's working on a record, so he can't do anything else until that obligation is handled. We were talking earlier in the pandemic. We thought it would be good to start working with Don on a record, and that's when we found out he can't really. He would like to too, I think, but he can't because of his Dokken. So it's all very much speculative right now, and it's speculative to the point that I have no idea what could, would, or will happen. But I know that there's desire there to someday maybe do one last record. We'll have to see. We'll just have to see. Schedules are going to have to align. That's really what it comes down to.
Okay.
Let's start back to corner here pretty soon, and once again, I'll be really busy. So
Yeah, yeah, I bet. Yeah, but I mean, to what do you credit this? To what do you credit the staying power of the bands from the '80s, like Dokken, Motley Crue, Poison, Rat? I mean, you guys took the flat from Zeppelin, Rainbow, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, and brought it to a new level. Where is rock going these days? That where's that? Who's filling that void? Because fans are still fixated on that era, right?
right. Well, I mean, for people in all of our age groups,
Yeah.
I think the fact that those bands have staying powers, usually it's the quality of the songs. I mean,
Hmm.
all the bands you just mentioned have some great songs. They
Absolutely.
really
Yeah.
do, and it's that has given them longevity. But as far as filling the void, well, that would have to be done by younger bands, and there are bands like, for instance, like Royal Blood. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've heard them. They're great. That's a great band. I'd love to see
Two-piece
them.
band, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
They're a two-piece band.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 But cool records, really cool,
Yeah.
and rock. There's the Greta Van Fleet. I've heard their new. I haven't heard their new stuff, but I've heard the new stuff is really good.
Hmm.
I love Rival Sons. To me, they are
Yeah.
like they're like one of my favorite bands in the last 20 years. I just love those guys. Live, they're so great.
Yeah.
So great. But anyway, but it's it's kind of it's a good question about where is rock going. I think rock needs more people to kind of create their own version of whatever rock is. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you what that is because I think it has to be done from somebody younger. I really do. I mean, I think, and I think it'll happen. It's funny. I was at the gym today, which is now finally opened up, and it was my first time back in the gym in a long time. And I go in there, and what do I hear? I hear that pop music that gets played in gyms all the time, and kind of dancey kind of thing. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh, has this not gone away yet? It's still there,
Yeah.
Um, uh, I just somebody's got to come along and kick everybody's ass. It just has to
Yeah.
happen sometime soon. I think people. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of music. I think people just tune out because
Right.
it sounds the same and it doesn't really do anything interesting or new. It's all kind of the same.
Yeah.
Um, I hope there's some 18-year-old guitar player out there that just discovered a way of playing that's different that nobody's ever heard before. Find some other musicians that and maybe they're not traditional instruments. Maybe they got a tuba player. I don't know,
Yeah.
something, whatever. But I
Something
hope
different.
somebody
Yeah.
is out there creatively coming up with something. And when I say rock music, I mean rebellious. I don't care what it sounds like, really.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some of that too, but intense, emotional, rebellious music. Somebody's got to come along with that. Hopefully soon, because I'm getting bored to tears with a lot of what's out there.
Yeah.
Uh, and maybe that'll happen. Maybe to a fan of 80s rock music, they won't recognize it. I don't know. You know, but be assured, music is constantly evolving, and something's going to come along.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about Foreigner. The last I heard, you guys were working on new music tentatively. What's the news about that?
Well, not much has changed really. I mean, we are
Mm.
working on some new music. It's hard because Mick's in New York, and he's not really into the remote kind of writing thing.
Yeah.
Um, so we haven't gotten much done during the pandemic, but we've been tossing around a few songs now, and there's some. But we did do some, by the way. Sending tracks back and forth, which
Mm.
has limited. It only can take you so far.
Yeah.
But there is some songs being kicked around. It's some really strong material. Hopefully, it'll see the light of day sometime soon, maybe on a package deal or something. But no real news on that just yet, other than it's coming.
Okay. All right. And Black Swan, I think last year, to me, it came out of nowhere. What is this record? And people started talking about it. And I got to check it out. It's awesome.
Oh, well,
So, yeah, there's plans for a new one, right? I think tentatively next year or.
for next year, yeah. Actually, Reb gets here Thursday, and we're going to start writing on Thursday.
Oh, cool.
So
Cool.
yeah, definitely plans for a Black Swan in 2022. That's going to be, I mean, between Foreigner and writing and recording a Black Swan record, that's a pretty good plate for me to deal with.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, definitely Black Swan in 2022. I just talked with Robin McAuley. He's raring to go. So, like I say, Reb gets here Thursday and we start writing.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, Robbie has a new solo album, I think, so he's got to give it its due diligence, I guess. So
Sure.
after
But
that, yeah.
but of course, it was written a while ago, so he's ready to write. So
Okay.
as
All
soon as
right.
Reb and I have some stuff, he's raring to go.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, on all those bands you're part of, you're not just playing root notes and not just along for the ride. You're an active writer on all of them. How do you select where each song is going to go, or how do you channel your creativity throughout all these projects?
Instinct, just what feels good.
Mm.
I mean, anymore, I don't care about anything but if it feels good. Does it feel
Okay.
good? Does it get me excited? Does it give me goosebumps? All those things. Those are the only things that matter to me anymore. So I just try and a lot of producing for me is sitting there being the fan, and just kind of listening and and having enough knowledge to know if I don't like something, what is it about it, and can I fix it, or does it need a whole change of direction or whatever it needs. And I'm not always right, but more often than not, I at least can stir up something. So between the other artist and myself, we come up with something, and that's the exciting part for me, is the collaborative, especially the writing. I love the writing. When the writing just clicks and you work off of one another, it's just a tremendous feeling. And with the bands that I deal with, I mean, I deal with premium musicians. George,
Yeah.
Robert, Steve, Robin McAuley, Reb Beach, Matt Starr. Top
Yeah.
level musicians.
Yeah.
I consider myself very fortunate.
Yeah. And tell me about Lasting Line. The last album came, I think, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Any chance of a follow-up?
Well,
Anything in the works?
they are working on something. I won't be involved. But they are working on something, and they might have a really good deal pending, which I'm hoping, because I love those guys. But and I haven't heard any of the new material, but I know they've started several songs and they're feeling good about it. So I have a feeling a great Last in Line record is coming soon, I hope.
Okay. All right. And what's this I hear about you writing a book about yoga?
Well, it's true. I
Yeah.
have. I'm in the process, about halfway done.
Hmm.
I just it's basically about how to incorporate yoga with your everyday life, and it gets into actual techniques of yoga, breathing, and exercises and meditation, as well as just dealing with how the mindset of meditation can affect your daily life and
Hmm.
improve your productivity, your concentration, your peace of mind. I mean, I'm a bit of a neurotic guy, so it's great for me as something to bring me down to earth and keep me centered. Um, and I just felt it'd be interesting to write a book from the perspective of somebody who does what I do, which is I travel a lot, I play music, and how yoga can affect your daily life and how it can affect everyone's. So hopefully I'd like to. I mean, I was hoping to finish it this year, but then the other musical things still take priority for me.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. Someday I'll hopefully have a book out there.
Right. I can definitely see how it helped you in this crazy business of yours.
Yeah,
Music,
yeah,
touring, hectic environment. So yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of touring, what can you confirm at this point in time that's going to happen? I see a few dates here and there from festivals and stuff like that. Are
Right.
you confirming anything or?
Yeah, we have shows. I know that May 19th and 20th we're in Orlando, Florida at this venue that basically specializes in outdoor social distance concerts.
Okay.
What's it called? The Front Yard Festival or something like that. Anyways, so that's on. Then we're doing two more shows at Ruth Eckerd Hall in Clearwater, Florida. Um, so that's in May. Then in June we have several shows, kind of Midwestish kind of stuff. And then in July we're full on toured. I mean, we're booked up till the end of the year. So
Oh, okay.
we're hitting
That's
the road
that's
soon.
Foreigner, right? Or
Yeah, that's Florida.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, we're hitting the road soon, and it's confirmed.
Okay. Well, I hope Black Swan gets to tour eventually, and the End Machine. I know you did a few shows, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
be fun.
Uh,
I mean, COVID has just put a huge damper on all touring plans. So it's kind of hard to speculate when any of those bands other than Foreigner could go out and play. But fingers crossed, and with time and opportunity, hopefully. I mean, I know the M Machine would love to go to Japan, so hopefully one of these.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm here in Toronto. I look forward to seeing you in whatever band you can tour with this year or the next.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
No worries. Thank you so much for your time. All the best with so many plans for this year.
Thank you, man. You too. You take care. Thanks
Cheers.
again.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.